That's right. You're listening to another episode of the Co-Main Event Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for nearly the last 14 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. It's been a couple weeks since we talked to you, and if you are listening to the sound of my voice right now, it means you survived 2025.
Yay!
Yay! And that means, among other indignities, we all survived another UFC media rights deal. It's the first CME of 2026, and the UFC has officially moved on from ESPN Plus and moved on to Paramount Plus for the next 7 years. A sentence that would have sounded like complete bullshit if I had said it even at the beginning of 2025. And so we are going to open this new year talking about that because, frankly, ain't any other shit going on. Here's the first show of the year, and instead of talking about actual fights, we are once again talking about where the fights live. Ben, new year, new UFC?
I see what you did.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I
See what I
appreciate
did
it.
there? Well,
Yeah, I mean,
the reason that I want to ask you that is because I just wanted to open the show by saying you and I have seen this happen a bunch of times before. We have seen Spike TV, we have seen Fox, we have seen ESPN, and now we're moving on to Paramount Plus. And I guess the question is, does this actually signal any real change, or is it just like a new logo on a new app that we all now must download?
no, one way or another, and maybe in a couple different ways, there's going to be this is going to be a new era. One of the ways that just we can see right off the bat is that it's going to be cheaper for the first fucking time in my roughly, at this point, I'll say quarter century, give or take a couple years of MMA fandom. This is the first time the cost to watch these events and follow along with this sport year to year is going down, and significantly. Well, allegedly. We'll get to that in a moment.
Allegedly.
That's one thing right there that's going to be different, is that for the first time, we're not doing this thing where it's just like, okay, we have a TV deal here, but then this way more expensive version of the specialty product over here. Now, I do think we wrote down on Crown this week our bold predictions for 2026, which I was reminded, we went back and looked at all of our bold predictions last year. I got to say, I was wrong when I said that you'll need more subscriptions to watch the UFC after the end of 2025, because Paramount just got it all. But I did say my prediction was John Jones would retire, but wouldn't stay that way. So I was kind of right about that. Pete Carroll, the big homie Pete, he did predict that John Jones would be stripped of the UFC heavyweight title. Now he vacated it technically by this retirement that he then redigged on. So I think we're both kind of right in our own ways on that one. But one of my bold predictions for this year is that at some point this year, they're going to try us. They won't call it pay-per-view. They'll probably call it something else. I was closing my eyes, Chad, and trying to picture John Anik saying some shit like Platinum Premier UFC event. You know, I could get there. I could hear the words in John Anik's voice, like something like that. They probably wouldn't go straight to $79.99. They might try it for $40 or something, but they're going to try something a little like, hey, this one is special. This is a different one, and therefore it's going to cost more than the $7.99 or $9.99 monthly subscription cost. They're going to try it at some point.
That's what I've been saying since the beginning. That's why I
keep saying
allegedly. I keep saying allegedly because we have never seen this before. You are telling me that these guys are going to cut me a break? Cut me. Well, you don't go down to the corner and the dope man says products cheaper today. This doesn't happen.
I believe that the UFC, they're making so much goddamn money from Paramount that I believe they would be content to be like, all right, pay-per-views were diminished anyway. People weren't buying the pay-per-views like they were. Everybody knows that. So hey, we're making $1 billion a year off this deal. We'll take that. That's still a big net improvement for us. But Paramount is not going to be able to live with that without at least trying it. Because I don't know, you saw this thing, right? Like, we talked a little bit about this toward the end of the year, where Paramount and it's, hey, let's gobble up a bunch of shit under our new, Skydance ownership group. They wanted to go out there and scoop up Warner Brothers, right? Like, so that was their kind of aggressive, hostile takeover sort of bid that they wanted to add to the resume, add to the portfolio. And one of the things that we saw here at the end of the year was, the Warner Brothers board of directors rejecting that Paramount offer. And one of the things that they're saying internally to their own shareholders and stuff is like, look, Paramount maybe doesn't have the money to do what they're saying they're going to do. And maybe they are already overextended in what they're paying. And they didn't specifically say UFC, but they said, I'll see if I can find the exact wording here. It says, this is from the letter. I'm reading this from the MMA Fighting Report over there by Damon Martin. In the short period since the completion of the Paramount Skydance transaction, PSKY has signed above-market, multi-year programming and sports licensing deals, both domestic and international. Now, they're not saying the UFC, but they're saying you overpaid for the UFC rights. You're paying $1 billion a year. That's $7.7 billion over 7 years. How are you going to make that back? Chad, you know how many $7.99 monthly subscriptions you have to sell to make back $1 billion fucking dollars?
I'm not a math guy. You're gonna have to
a
tell
lot.
Me. Yeah,
it's around 125 million of them right now.
Oh no! See, there are not 125 million of us anymore.
No,
maybe at one point, but not today. Not today.
Right now, if you look at like Paramount's subscriber numbers, they're at like around 79 million or so, and they've been adding like 1, 2, 3 million a quarter, something like that. They can expect to see a boost when you come up there and you got all the UFC offerings right there. The subscription price is also set to go up, I think maybe to like $9.99 or something, but still, like, you get in like $60, less than what an individual pay-per-view cost you last year. You can get a year right now of Paramount Plus, which is a good deal. Like, they were smart to kind of market this like, hey, is there a fight fan in your life? Give them this $60 1-year subscription to Paramount, get all the UFC stuff. But that's not enough. That's not going to be enough fucking money, man. That won't pay the freight, as Cy Tolliver will tell you. They are going to have to at least try it to see, do these people, do they still have a little bit of pay-per-view in them? Because they know if you wait 2 or 3 years down the road, you get us used to thinking, hey, the UFC is not a premium product. The UFC is just one of the things I get for my subscription. The same way I think of English Premier League is one thing I get with my Peacock subscription. If then I try to go watch, a big game, if I try to go watch, like Man City and Arsenal or Liverpool and Arsenal or something, and you're like, no, this one is fucking $10 extra, I'll be like, fuck you. No, it's not. That's not how this shit works. You let us get into that mindset, you won't get us back out of it very easily. And so I think that they know that. They're going to try it. They're going to try it at some point this year and see how it goes, see if we bite. And this is what I'm saying as like, now when I turn from prognostication to advocacy, don't fall for it. Don't do it. If we just hold them off on their one first attempt to do it, they'll be like, all right, pay-per-view is dead. We're not going to be. They'll try it again a few years later or something when they think they actually got something. But don't just give in the first time. They try to be like, what about if this one were special though? Don't fall for it, man.
I just am beyond the point of believing these motherfuckers when they tell me anything. I've been here too long. I would feel like an ass to let these guys look me in the face and tell me they were going to save me some money. I just don't believe it, man. And maybe next year, maybe first show of 2027, I'll be sitting here saying I was wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. It cost me a lot less money to be a UFC fan. I just don't. It's like I can't believe it. It's like I won't let myself believe it. And I don't want to start the year sounded like tinfoil hat guy over here, but I still, in the back of my mind brain, wonder. I have these wonderments where I'm like, did Paramount even want the UFC to begin with? And you were right. They're out here snapping up everything they could get. But for most of the year, we didn't hear anything about Paramount and
No.
the UFC right up to the point that it happened. It was a surprise. And I'm telling you, man, Paramount and Skydance trying to get this merger approved, and the Trump administration, FCC, is blocking it, throwing up all these delays because Trump is mad at CBS and all this other stuff. And then you turn around at a UFC event, and who's sitting in the front row? Dana White, Ari Emanuel, David Ellison from Paramount, and Donald Trump. They're all sitting there talking to each other. And then, next thing you know, the Skydance Paramount merger gets approved, and out of nowhere, out of the blue, Paramount gives the UFC far more money than anyone thought the UFC was going to get to buy all of their broadcast rights. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theory guy, but that seems weird to me.
Well, I mean, you don't even have to sound like a conspiracy theory guy on that. And obviously, one of the other ways that I think that this is going to look and feel different is Paramount is clearly doing a thing. They have decided on a course of action. They've decided on a direction. And they are very clearly being like, we are friendly, let's say, to the Trump administration. You already see it at CBS. You see it at 60 Minutes. We've all seen that. Like, just immediately, it seems like we're doing an ideological thing. We're going after a certain kind of viewer now. We're not just trying to be like CBS, ABC, NBC. For a long time, we're always just sort of like, we want everybody. Our marketing demo is absolutely everybody. Everybody who owns a fucking TV set. We're trying to just throw the big tent over and get as many people as we possibly can. And that's why you see how dumb network sitcoms are. Man, anytime you watch live sports, you watch an NFL game and you'll see the ads for TV shows that are on, and you're just like, I had no fucking clue what was happening on network TV. I had no fucking clue how dumb the game shows had gotten. How, like, we're just doing like, here's a show, an hour drama about a doctor. It's called Doctor. Like, that's what we're doing now on network TV. Like, they're just trying to appeal to as many different people as possible. And CBS
Wichita Fire.
Yeah.
Check out all the hot 20-somethings
FBI,
that work for the fire department in Wichita. They're all hot.
FBI, CSI Tulsa. And CBS has, under this new ownership group, has clearly decided, what if Fox News but network TV? Like, that's clearly what they're going to do. And the UFC makes a good partner for that, because they're like, that's the right-wing sports brand. The UFC has leaned that way harder and harder every year over the last 5 years or so. It's clear, like, hey, that's how you can signal, like, we have a certain allegiance to the Trump administration. We're going to play it your way. That's how you can get Trump's ear, is to sit next to him at a UFC event. All that shit just plays right into it. We're doing a White House event on Trump's birthday. Notice how quickly we went from being like, this is to celebrate the 250th birthday of America, to being like, nah, we're just going to do it on Trump's birthday. And I'm telling you, one of my other bold prediction for 2026 is, however weird you think you are prepared for that event to be, it's going to be weirder. It is not going to be like just a regular UFC event, but on the White House lawn. And like, one of the big differences is just going to be who's there. It's going to be a bunch of billionaires fronting and faking like they know what the hell any of this is, and like they enjoy it. And I'm telling you, there's going to, like, a bunch of UFC fighters are thinking they want to fight there because they feel like, I'll get the opportunity to enjoy the spotlight at the White House. Man, if you stand around too long in the wrong spot without your gloves on, they're going to toss you their keys and think you're the valet. Like, that's the kind of event you're going into there. It is going to be bread and circuses all the way down. So, like, that kind of shit is clearly what they want to do. You see this story out from the Washington Post where they're talking about how like looking at this internal like ICE document where they're like, here's how we're going to go through what they call a wartime recruitment strategy. Wartime, Chad. The war is on immigrants in the United States. But they outline like, here's how we're going to get people to sign up for ICE and do this shit for us. And they cite like podcasters, like kind of like right-wing podcasts and stuff like the UFC. That's why we're running so many ads there. That's why we're trying to recruit UFC fans this way, but not, you know, NBA fans, NHL fans, stuff like that. Like they look at the UFC and they see the same thing that Paramount saw, which is that's the right-wing sports brand. That's the preferred Trump administration sports brand. Let's go with that. I feel like the Paramount deal is only going to ratchet up some of that stuff, which I feel is maybe going to make it harder for guys like you and me to like we're just going to have to sit through more of that bullshit. We're just going to have to swallow more of that bullshit. And it already felt like we were being asked to swallow a whole hell of a lot of it.
Yeah. Does it end up working out for anybody, though? Like, we know it has, in some ways, already worked out for the UFC because they have gotten this enormous broadcast deal. Although, to hear you talk, I hope they got paid up front, and I hope the checks clear. I hope the checks keep clearing when Ari keeps walking over to the First National Bank with the check that Ellison wrote him and trying to put it in his account. I hope that it.
You think that's how he tells the secretary, like, hey, I'm just going to pop out to the bank around the corner. I'm going to take the $1 billion check, snap,
payday,
and I'm gonna stick it in the front pocket of my sports coat, and I'm just going to walk it around the corner and then deposit it in the old business checking account.
Yep, once every 2 weeks, payday. Ari gets to take some money to the bank. I hope the checks keep clearing. So the UFC,
I believe the deal is backloaded. I don't think it is like it's an average of $1 billion a year, but I like from what people were saying when it first got announced, I don't think it is that year one you make $1 billion. I think it's backloaded.
I mean, we're talking about the super rich, so quote unquote things working out is a relative statement, right? But you know, the UFC has already gotten all this money, and if things start looking down for the UFC, you know that TKO is just going to sell it, right? As soon as things start looking down, they'll sell that thing because they are not as dedicated to it in the same way as the previous owners were. But you know, maybe it's wishful thinking, but we've started to see some of these news reports percolating around the edges that maybe the coalition isn't going so hot these days. The MAGA cult, maybe some people are starting to be like, hey, I didn't vote for Venezuela to be the 51st state. You know, and some people
also,
start.
Hey, to interrupt you, but the stuff I was just telling you guys and telling other people how among the trips I have planned coming up in early 2026 is I'm going over there to Copenhagen. Motherfucker, I'm going to Copenhagen next month. Don't start making them mad right now. Don't be out here talking about how we're going to take Greenland and they don't have the balls to stop us. You got fucking Stephen Miller and his oddly shaped ass head going out there on TV being like, no one's going to stop the United States militarily from seizing Greenland. And I'm like, man, can I just go on my vacation? I've already booked the hotels and bought the airline tickets. Now you're going to make me have to come up with a whole Canadian backstory. I'm gonna, because anytime I open my mouth or something, I'm gonna have to be like, I'm from Canada, and they're gonna be what part, and I'm gonna be like, Vancouver, you know, like I have to have a whole backstory ready so that I can plausibly masquerade as a Canadian over there because you're pissing them off.
It would be terrible if the widespread breakdown of the world order and, you know, the large scale violation of international laws and various treaties. Be terrible if that screwed up Ben Folks's vacation.
I already paid. It's non-refundable. I mean, although if they don't act like I can't pretend I haven't envisioned a scenario where I go over there and I just get stuck there, can't come back, and I go, well, I live in Copenhagen now. You know what? I'll adjust. They seem like they have a pretty nice goddamn country over there.
What I'm saying is, if this thing should somehow crash and burn, does it work out? Does it work out for Paramount? We're already talking about how it might not. Does it work out for the Trump administration? Does it work out for the UFC? Does it work out for fans? Does it work out for fighters? Like we made this decision recently to shift to the right, seemingly without much forethought about what happens down the road. And again, another thing I've been saying for years, I don't know that we are even in a situation now where anyone in charge of this sport is thinking about 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or what will the sport look like in another 20 or 30 years. Nobody's thinking that. Everybody's thinking, I hope when I walk to the bank and I see Marge, my favorite teller, and she's like, oh, well, good afternoon, Ari. I hope that the check keeps clearing. That's what they're thinking. Nobody's thinking about the future here.
Another 500 mil deposit right here. Whoa, forgot to sign my name on the back. Ari Emanuel. Like, I do think again, as long as I'm being selfish and thinking about my Denmark vacation, there is a selfish part of me that wonders, what if the UFC going over to Paramount does lead to, I don't want to say some sort of like second golden age of the UFC, but what if what we do by ditching pay-per-view, by ditching all these many different paywalls we had erected over on ESPN Plus, what if once you make the pitch to people, hey, $7.99, $9.99, you watch South Park, man. You can watch fucking Tulsa King and whatever, Landman or whatever. I don't really know which one Landman is on anymore, but you go over there to watch these shows. You could also just get every single UFC event. We've been saying for so long, hey man, if you just asked us for one price to watch everything and made us, don't force us into a decision-making process about each event where we're looking at the numbered events and being like, is this one good enough? Is that one good enough? Does that one seem like it's going to be worth $80? I don't know, man. Like, if you would just take that out of the equation, then you might get more fans over the long term if you just make it easier and cheaper to watch the thing. And it seemed like for so long, the UFC was just not at all concerned. They were like, we grew this thing as big as we cared to. Now we're in the cash out phase, especially because the Fertittas felt like we invested so many millions of dollars into it when it was a losing proposition. Now we want our fucking money back and we want to get out. And now if somebody else is the one paying all the big upfront bills, and you can just make it like, here's one price, watch every single thing we got, could you get more fans that way? Now, I want to talk myself into believing that you could. The problem is, kind of as you said, where you don't believe any of these motherfuckers who could look you in the eye and tell you that they're trying to save you some money, is I have a hard time believing that without the proper incentives, the UFC will just on their own make a fan-friendly experience the priority. I think that what they will do once they have all this guaranteed money coming in is look around to see where could we cut costs to make this even more insanely profitable for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are long past the era of trying to get more fans, right? That was what we saw. The entire formative years of the UFC were spent trying to get more fans. That was the whole thing. And then, when we went to Fox, maybe we were trying to get more fans. But then when we went behind the paywall at ESPN Plus, I feel like they're trying to get more fans era was over. And we are trying to cash this thing out for as much money as we possibly can era took over. And I've spoken at length about how I feel like that changed the UFC's business model and product. And I won't totally get into that here now. But are you going to get more fans on Paramount Plus than you did on ESPN Plus? Like you probably got more subscribers, right? The Paramount Plus probably has more subscribers than ESPN Plus. Maybe you get some lapsed fans back. Maybe you get people who are already paying for other stuff. But at the same time, does Paramount Plus feel like a step forward to you? Does the UFC disembarking from ESPN and moving on to Paramount Plus, does that feel like a step forward?
Not right now. However, I think that there is a possible reality where Paramount Plus, through overspending and gobbling up some of these media rights, maybe does become a bigger thing, does become one of the main streaming options that everybody feels like they have to have. I could see that as a possibility. And I could also see it as a possibility. ESPN had already been talking about like, all right, we're going to roll out a completely different option that costs way more. Like, I could see a possible world where they kind of pass one on the way down and one on the way up at some point, because ESPN right now, like the things that we were saying that you got along with ESPN was you might be at a sports bar, look up at the TV, and they're talking about the UFC, or there might be a UFC prelim matches or one of the fight night events on. You might just have that sort of like omnipresence in American sporting cultural life that ESPN gives you. Paramount Plus definitely doesn't give you that. Unless you're on CBS, unless you're doing all the prelims for like your big time events on CBS, who knows? Maybe they decide to do that. Maybe we preempt CSI, Tulsa, FBI, CIA. How long until Paramount or CBS starts doing a network show about ICE? By the way, the heroic warriors of ICE. Anyway, I could see some world where like what ESPN was going to continue to give you, both because of how the diminishing numbers of people watching regular terrestrial TV with a regular ESPN subscription was going down. The ESPN's also trying to wring every possible streaming dollar out of every sports fan in America as it is, that at some point it works out. I don't think we're at that point right now. I think you're still like Paramount Plus still seems like outside of the big streaming apps that everybody has. Like the ones everybody has, like the ones I kind of feel like I got to have these just on either for the shit that I regularly watch or the shit that my kids regularly watch. It's like Netflix, Amazon Prime. Through Amazon Prime, I have HBO, but depending on what's on HBO, that one I might turn on or off. Disney Plus in the past, but my kids are starting to get older to the point where Disney Plus is not big of a thing. But it's kind of like Netflix and Amazon Prime. If I really had to scale back on my subscription streaming spending, that's what I would scale back to right now. Yeah. Paramount Plus right now feels lumped in with like Peacock. I'd like to have Peacock. I like to watch the English Premier League games on the weekends. I like that I can queue up a 30 Rock episode if I'm folding laundry, some shit like that. But I don't gotta have Peacock. Yeah. ESPN without the UFC, the ESPN Plus app, I've already decided is, for one thing, I hate it. I hate the fucking user experience of it. And it's like, I'd watch Kraken games, but you could also watch a lot of these Kraken games on like Amazon Prime.
You can't watch Kraken games on ESPN Plus now. Here in Missoula, they're blacked out.
They black them out. Yeah. I mean, just like NHL in general and stuff like that. It's like, it's not enough. ESPN Plus has fallen off the list of must-have apps for me. And so Paramount is trying to elbow their way in. And I see what they're thinking. They're thinking a lot of the same thing a lot of these big streaming companies are, which is like the worst place to be right now is as a small to mid-level streaming business. You can't survive that way because you're just not making enough money back, and you look like food for one of the other big entertainment giants to eat. And so you might as well spend big to try to be one of the big streaming giants, and that's what they're doing. And so I can see a possible world where the UFC benefits from that if they don't fuck it up. But I also think that like we have to remind ourselves in this sport every once in a while, whatever dream we might have that someday every man, woman, and child will be an MMA fan, that someday UFC will be up there with like the NFL as just like a shit America just kind of hits the pause button on their lives to watch. That's just not going to happen. This is still always going to be a niche sport. Professional fighting in all its forms has always to some extent been a niche sport. You get certain superstars, certain eras that come along that create more fans, but it's always going to be sort of an ebb and flow. You're never going to be the NFL where people are like every year, hey, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I don't care how many times they've hurt me and broken my heart and ruined my Sundays, I'm still turning up next season because it's the fucking NFL. They're just not going to have that. And so we can't base our hopes around that.
No, that ship sailed a long time ago. If anything, the Fox/ESPN eras taught me that my mainstream sports writer friends still to this day don't know or care a goddamn thing about MMA. And, society at large will embrace a big boxing match.
Yeah.
Right. We see that just in the last year. We've seen that several times over. And whether or not you want to consider Mike Tyson against Jake Paul a like legitimate affair, you saw all of society get behind it or be interested in it, let's say. And a heavyweight boxing match, heavyweight title fight, that'll still get you mainstream sports coverage, mainstream appeal, mainstream attention. You don't get that for most or any UFC fights to that level, short of like a Conor McGregor fight, maybe. And maybe without ESPN, maybe you lose any foothold in that at all. But again, making more and more money all the time, so everything must be great.
Well, I also think that I was thinking recently about when the Fox deal first started and how they decided to do a one-off event where we're just doing one fight for the heavyweight championship on regular Fox network TV. And it was like basically playing on this exact strategy you talk about. Like, everybody understands heavyweight title fight. But, biggest, baddest dudes, baddest men on the planet. We're going out there. You're still going to have a little bit of the obstacle of people understand the boxing rules, or at least like the broad, simple aspects of boxing rules in America far more than they understand MMA rules. You don't have to explain boxing rules to them. They can turn it on and watch it and be like, I understand. One guy's trying to punch the other guy's trying to punch him and not get punched. Like, that's a lot easier. But it worked in their strategy where they were like, let's give it to him for free. On Fox, heavyweight title fight, even though it ended in just 60 seconds, which was not ideal, you still got like 10 million people. You still got a much bigger audience than what you were used to getting, and probably an audience that had different people on it. It worked, and then they never did it again. Just because of greed, just because they realized like, this isn't what makes the most money for us. And by the end of that deal, Fox got sick of them a little bit because of that, because they're like, you're not giving us the best shit you have on our Fox like network broadcast. You're still saving the good shit for yourselves on pay-per-view. And so that seems kind of baked into the UFC's DNA at a certain point. Yeah. I'm wondering, is there a number you pay them and like a model that you set up for them that makes them rethink that? Is that number 1 billion paid bi-monthly in a little check that goes into Ari Emanuel's front pocket? Do you like Dana White?
We've puts it in one of those bank envelopes, the big with the zipper on top.
Yeah, once you zip it closed, that's secure. We've talked about Dana White's pretty stubborn and thinks like, I know everything there is to know about promoting these fights and being in this fight business. I'm not trying to do anything differently. But here you are kind of going to be doing some stuff differently by necessity. Just the structure of how we're presenting this to fans seems like it has changed, again, allegedly, for now. Maybe that leads to at least a little bit of a shift in thinking about like how we're arranging fights on these events, what the sales proposition to fans actually is, what it looks like going forward. I will say, when the first couple title fights we book for the year are ones that kind of make fans look at them and go, what? Wasn't nobody asking for that, man? Fucking Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje for their interim title. The rematch no one asked for right away with Diego Lopez and Alexander Volkanovski. Like, those being the first things out the gate, that does not exactly make me feel hopeful that we've completely changed the game in a good way. It kind of makes it seem like they just went, well, fuck it, man. Buy it or don't. We don't care.
Well, we got to save 6 or 7 title fights for the White House. That's a big deal. That's why we got to do these ones up front. You know what? I have yet to see a UFC television broadcast deal end on friendly terms. So we'll see what happens with Paramount Plus. Remember, you're listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Tuesday afternoon for free in your timelines and podcast libraries. But if you want even more of the Co-Main Event, you can find Ben Fowlkes and myself all week over on Patreon. Hit us up at patreon.com/co-main event. Get loads of extra audio and video content, as well as access to our official Discord message board where they're talking fights and a lot of other stuff literally all the time. Everybody knows by now we are a completely independent podcast. We don't have the backing of a big parent company or even one of the major MMA websites. We're just 2 guys talking into microphones, and we've been doing it for almost a decade and a half. The truth is, we can only keep making the show with your support. So if you can spare a few dollars, head over to the Patreon. Sign up at patreon.com/co-main event. We think you will enjoy it. Another way you could support the show is by going to co-mainevent.com and checking out our merchandise shop. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got hoodies, we got lots more. Stop by and pick up our best-selling Daddest Man on the Planet coffee mug or t-shirt, both of which I believe are back in stock after the rush from the holidays. You can get yourself a Dundasso t-shirt or hoodie. You can get yourself a Bobby Nux t-shirt, a Volcomania shirt. We got it all. Just go to our website, co-mainevent.com, and click the link at the top of the page that says shop. As always, we partner with our friend Johnny Ashcroft on the shop. He is a graphic designer from Portland, Oregon. We can't recommend him highly enough for all your design needs. Hit him up at studiosuperconductor.com or on Instagram at studiosuperconductor. And right now, like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
First piece of listener mail this week comes to us from Marks Edgeworth Lazarus. Ben, you're going to have to Google that for me to find out if that is a real thing.
You feel like that's not legit? That's what you're saying? You just feel like there's something about this one?
Do I feel like Marks Edgeworth Lazarus is the actual name of a real Co-Main Event podcast listener? No, not really.
Well, I guess you don't believe that American individualist, anarchist, Fourierist, and free thinker Marks Edwards. This is a tough one. I mean, just because he died in 1896, I don't think that means he doesn't enjoy the CME.
I mean, just from that description, he sounds like he'd be a loyal listener. So, yeah, it's too bad he missed out. Did y'all see the press conference wherein Shara Bullet, upon being insulted in an unoriginal and ultimately irrelevant way by Arman Sarukian, monologued like he was a goddamn latter-day Rocky villain as written by Cormac McCarthy? Here's a transcript of the clip I saw. Quote, "I came to the arena as soon as I landed. I saw you were saying loud words about me. That doesn't suit you. You're getting personal. You were talking about bravery and sport. I lived a different life. My understanding of fear is not the same as yours. I stole aluminum in my neighborhood so I could afford gloves for training. You lived a different life, brother. So don't talk about me being afraid. Guys like you are calling police around me." A pretty good promo.
That is.
That's from Shara Bullet. If I'm not mistaken, though, these guys went out there and had a grappling match, right? In the dead zone between like Christmas and New Year's. And did it or did it not end in a draw?
I don't fucking know. I saw some people was out there grappling. I saw they was doing some stuff like that. Good for them, I guess, staying busy and whatnot. It does seem like people in MMA are not going to let Arman Sarukian forget that his family got money. Like, and I get it. Like, once like that settles in as like the narrative around you, people are gonna love to hammer that, especially because it's not usually how it works. You don't usually get into this sport if your family got that money. But it's like at this point, he's clearly fucking good. He's clearly a good fighter. I understand we're ready to believe like, oh, you're a rich kid, so you're soft, and like fighting would not be the thing that people who grew up with wealth and privilege would naturally tend to be good at. But every once in a while, there is one. He seems to be one. Like we're doing this thing. You're not wrong. I mean, when Shara Bullet is talking about stealing aluminum, that feels specific enough that I don't feel like he's making it up. That's not like, I came from the mean streets. Like, it's not vague. It's like he's talking about probably a specific informative childhood memory. So sure, I guess I believe you, but also like, I don't know, man. I still think Arman Sarukian is a pretty good fighter who would beat most people in an MMA fight, even if he's going to celebrate by buying a Rolex with his daddy's money or something afterwards,
Arman Sarukian faced Shara Magomedov in a grappling bout at Hype FC on December 30th in Armenia.
We got to throw FC after fucking everything.
The fight took place under submission-only rules with 6-minute time limit, and if no submission was achieved within that time, the bout would end in a draw. The match concluded in a draw after 6 minutes, with both fighters failing to secure a submission. That makes the promo feel a little less cool to me.
Yeah.
Just like cut a scorcher on Arman Sarukian before you went out there and grappled to a draw in 6 minutes.
I do appreciate, though, this being highlighted by Lazarus, who practiced homeopathy and pursued hydropathy, a water cure for illness involving cold baths and wrapping in wet sheets, bland vegetarian meals, and exercise. So
that's our people. That's our demo.
And it's
like
great.
If you were going to ask an analytics company, what's the Co-Main Event Podcast's demographic? That's it. You just described it.
And we do appreciate him taking the time to write to us, even though in his later years, he had become a disenchanted recluse known as the Sand Mountain Hermit of Jackson County, Alabama, and died in his isolated cabin in 1896 and was buried in Guntersville, Alabama.
That's our listener, man. That's who our people are. Hold up listening to the Patreon in their cabins, in their bunkers.
He also, God, it's a real fucking, he tried to cope with apparent mental and physical disturbances, in particular what seemed to be chronic nocturnal emissions. I'm going to let everybody else, if they don't know, Google that one themselves. A condition that at the time was labeled seminal incontinence or spermaturia. Oh, that's hilarious. Believed to be detrimental and even fatal to the mind and body. Lazarus sought treatments through homeopathy, hydropathy, and electromagnetic treatments that seemed to bring some temporary relief. Electromagnetic. He also discussed the condition in his 1852 book, Involuntary Seminal Losses, Their Causes, Effects, and Cure, where he suggested that the total sexual abstinence he had tried to practice might be one of those causes. Man, can you imagine having to go get electrical shocks for something that could have been cured by just jerking the peen? Jaying the peen, as Tim Wilson, Sean O'Malley would say.
If you grew up in the 90s, there's no way you haven't heard of nocturnal emissions, because I remember that as being like a cornerstone of sexual education. Just like, we're going to tell you about nocturnal emissions, man. Don't even worry about it. We're going to put a condom on a banana and tell you about nocturnal emissions.
Wow.
Next question this week. Speaking of grappling, that's what we're talking about. Talking about grappling matches. This message comes to us from the Mentally Stable Hawaiian.
Okay.
I see what he did there.
A counterbalance to the Crazy Hawaiian, who I've heard does some kind of a slap fighting.
Mm-hmm. Long time, first time. Well, thank you to Mentally Stable Hawaiian. Did you guys see that Paddy Pimblett, who fights for the interim UFC lightweight title, LOL, a few weeks from now, just participated in what appears to be an in-house jiu-jitsu tournament at his home gym and got tapped by a fucking calf slicer? Now, I'm not saying this means anything for the fight against Gaethje, since that dude would probably rather give back all the money he got from the Chechen dictator before he'd even attempt a calf slicer. But am I the only one looking at this, then looking at the interim title bullshit and saying with a weary sigh, so it's come to this? And the Mentally Stable Hawaiian includes a handy Instagram reel link here in case we needed to see it. Yeah, this, they say all publicity is good publicity. But again, if I'm Ari Emanuel and I'm scraping up the petty cash and the rolls of quarters and putting them in the bank envelope, zipping it up and carrying it across the street to the bank, I might stop on the corner, put a dime into the payphone, call Paddy Pimblett.
Dime. Wow.
And be like,
you're going to call Paddy Pimblett with a dime.
Yep.
Across the
international
pond.
Call Paddy Pimblett across the pond and be like, bro, we do not need people seeing this before you climb in the cage and fight Justin Gaethje. We don't need this.
Apparently, this was some kind of like charity tournament thing that his gym does, I think, every year. And it seems like it's a real, WWE survivor match kind of thing where everybody gets on the mats at one time, and if you get tapped out, then you got to get off the mats until it's just two people left. And apparently Paddy Pimblett has won it like every year for like 4 or 5 years running, and then this year lost it. The winner got 1,500 quid from what I'm seeing, although then just it's since it's charity, he didn't, like, I don't think he even touched the 1,500 quid. They're like, he gets this 1,500 quid, which we're going to give to charity. It's like, all right, so he doesn't get it at all. But you know, so you could say like, all right, good cause, having fun at the gym, whatever. It is maybe not the best publicity right now. That fight, it's January 6th right now. That fight is at like before the end of the month.
Right? Yeah,
So
I think it's on like the 24th. It's in 2 weeks.
even if you're getting tapped by like good guys in the gym, I guess you'd probably rather not have that happen. Then again, I don't, even if you showed this to Justin Gaethje, I don't think he's going to be like, all right, so calf slicer. That's my path to victory over. Like he couldn't bring himself. If he was in a devil went down to Georgia situation where he had to go up against the devil himself with his soul on the line, and he knew the calf slicer was the only way out, he still wouldn't do it. There's just no way.
Next question this week comes to us from Rexton Ralston Fernando Gordon. I Googled this one myself. You know who this is, Ben?
Who is it?
Shaba.
The real life Shaba Ranks?
It is the real life Shaba Ranks. Now, whether or not this Shaba is connected to co-main event podcast patron in good standing, Shaba Ranks, who frequently hits up the live chat, the Wednesday live chat over on the Patreon page, I don't know, but it could well be a hell of a coincidence if not.
Maybe it'd be like a alter ego, such as like a Batman Bruce Wayne kind of situation.
You think this Shaba maybe has a goatee and is the evil Rexton Ralston Fernando Garcia Gordon?
I don't know. I mean, the other Shaba seems like willing to get evil, so who knows?
Yeah. He writes, interesting story by Guilherme Cruz over on MMA Fighting this week, lads. According to his stats, there were 83 submission finishes in 495 total UFC fights last year. Of those, just 2 were submissions from triangle chokes. 2! That's crazy, right? Think this is just a temporary blip, or are we headed toward a future where this jiu-jitsu shit just doesn't work on anyone anymore? Now, you are the jiu-jitsu correspondent of the Co-Main Event podcast, so I will ask you about this. But am I wrong that the triangle choke is one of the most you gotta not know what you're doing submissions to get caught in, right? Like, isn't the triangle choke kind of like it works best like if the other guy doesn't know about it, right?
I mean, they all work best if you don't know what is happening until it's too late. Fair. I think the triangle choke is one that you still see people in high level competitions get triangle chokes in jiu-jitsu. I read this article and because I was, that's my shit. That is totally how you get me, is tell me about a statistical aberration having to do with jiu-jitsu and MMA. And he talked to a few different people for this who put forth some good theories as to why it is, like why the triangle is sort of falling off, because it's like a triangle is one of those things where even when you think you're a pretty experienced grappler, you see it coming, the setups, even when you go up against somebody, I've been in jiu-jitsu tournaments where I've watched somebody get everybody else they face with triangle chokes. And you go, all right, that's this guy's move. I know how to defend the triangle choke. I know how to spot it when it's coming. And then you go in there and the guy does it to you and you're just like, okay, so it's his move because he's really good at it. Like he's still getting it. And it's like, even while in your brain, you're going, here it is. Here comes the triangle setup. He's going for it. And then you are still finding yourself falling deeper and deeper into it. And you're just like, fuck, like it can still work on people who know it's an option.
So maybe my first presumption was exactly wrong. Let me guess again. Could it be because to get the triangle choke in a conventional way, you already have to be in a disadvantageous position in mixed martial arts?
Yeah, and that's something that comes up in this article. I can't remember who it is who brings it up, but like somebody mentions it that like, and I've been in MMA gyms where they are drilling this into people's heads. Like, look, if you're on bottom, don't work your jiu-jitsu, work your get up. Like you are down there trying to set up the submissions you learned in jiu-jitsu class off your back, and to the judges, you're losing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't really even matter how close you come to getting some of those submissions off your back. They see you on your back. They see you maybe getting punched in the face. They see the other guy controlling you. You're losing. And that basically thinking, all right, if everybody is good enough at jiu-jitsu, the chances that you're going to nab some of these submissions go down. the chances that you're just going to run out of time on them are also pretty high. Get the fuck up. Don't spend too much time on your back trying to set, like, if the time you spend on your back should either be set trying to set up sweeps that's going to take you from bottom to top, or that's going to try to like create the space you need to get back up and start again. And it's like, I can understand why people are just not going for that much anymore. Somebody also points out, like, in kind of a Rampage Jackson, Ricardo Arona sort of way, if you go for a triangle choke and it doesn't work, the guy sees it coming, the chances of you getting picked up and slammed through the fucking canvas are too high, especially because like the risk to reward there is way off. That's something that just doesn't happen to you in most jiu-jitsu competitions. That thread is kind of taken out. And so I could see why some people would just be like, don't fuck around down there trying to get triangle chokes. I think that where we used to see them more often was like one dude is starting to win stand-up exchanges, the other guy hits a desperation takedown but gets himself into a bad spot where they land and he's still woozy, and you can get that triangle before his brain has reset enough to see it coming and defend. And so maybe that's what's going on there. I don't know. It does make me wonder though where we're headed. Like, are we going to get to a point where it's just rear naked chokes, maybe some head and arm chokes, and then every once in a while a weirdo choke that Eddie Bravo invented or some other dude, some jiu-jitsu nerd invented and named after himself? Like, is that going to be, and even the RNCs, are half of those just going to be jaw crushers that we don't ever get in below anybody's chin? I don't know. I do kind of wonder what we'll continue to see develop there.
Are you telling me that jiu-jitsu could be the new kung fu of the 90s? Remember, because at the beginning of the UFC, we were like, oh, shit, kung fu doesn't work. And then all of a sudden, now you got dudes spin kicking other dudes in the face and shit. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe some of that stuff is okay.
Even if you don't want to be using like submissions offensively off your back, jiu-jitsu wise, you still got to know jiu-jitsu if you're going to be in the UFC. I don't know if you need to know kung fu if you're going to be in the UFC.
Maybe if you're just really good at it.
I think Gable Stevens is probably going to show up with zero kung fu and probably still do pretty well.
Did you just say Gabe? Did you just say Stevenson?
God
because
damn it.
I know that we're going to hear about it if you do. Gable Stevenson. Gable Dan Stevenson. Next question comes
Stevenson. That's how I'm calling him.
Carrie with 2 R's says, so Jake Paul got his jaw busted, but still somehow continues to talk shit. This man still thinks he wants to fight Big Fran after all that. You believe this shit? If you're Ngannou, do you take him up on the offer now? Am I just crazy? Is this crazy talk if I tell you that this is a good fight for both guys in terms of like promotion? God damn it. After every Jake Paul fight, we find ourselves in a where does Jake Paul go from here type situation. Because every single one, you're either like, oh, well, that's the best he can do. That's the top of the ladder. Or you're like, oh, he lost to fucking Tyson Fury's brother. Now he's ruined, or he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. This is the end for Jake Paul. We're constantly trying to figure out what the next move for Jake Paul is that people will actually want to watch. Is that Francis Ngannou?
I mean, the difference after this one was the answer to where does Jake Paul go next is to the kitchen for straws because it's dinner time. Because the man's jaw's wired shut.
No, I got it. I got the joke. Yeah.
He got to drink milkshakes for every meal. So that's one thing, is that he's going to need some time to get over that. I mean, if I'm Ngannou, like I am a little worried what we hear from Francis Ngannou, that he might be overthinking his boxing career. And that if he does that too much, the window's going to close, both in terms of like him being a guy people think to offer these fights to, but also him being close enough to his athletic prime to do at all well in those fights. Because I think him missing this opportunity to be the guy who became a hero to millions by breaking Jake Paul's jaw, that was already a bad fuck up by him. Because he seemed to overthink it too much, or maybe took his boxing career more seriously than we want him to take it, or something. Like, he should have been the guy to snatch up this opportunity and go in there and do this to Jake Paul. And I worry he might see an opportunity now as like, well, now I'm just like, you couldn't beat Anthony Joshua, but you think you can beat Francis Ngannou, and like he won't want to play second fiddle in that way. He absolutely should take a Jake Paul fight because he'd still probably beat him. There's still some attaboys you're going to get from people for going out there and beating Jake Paul's ass. It's the point, though, where if Jake Paul really does try to make that fight happen, that's where I might have to go, this boy crazy. He might actually be crazy. And to the point where he doesn't need this at any point. Like financially, clearly he doesn't need it. He could do some other shit boxing wise. He could just take a while off. You don't need to be getting in there with another heavy. The one thing you should learn from this fight is that they have those damn weight classes for a reason, son. You don't want to get in there with big ass Francis Ngannou after that. Like, it's a bad idea for Jake Paul. Go back to fucking around. Find a fucking around ass fight that you can take. Don't go in there with your recently broke ass jaw, which can more easily be broke the second time. Because, man, if that happens, if you get posterized again, you get memeified by Big Franny and guns, then what? You know?
What you're saying is more fucking around, less finding out.
Yes, exactly. That's what I would advise him.
Okay, well, I don't like it, but I feel compelled to say it out loud. What if he wins, though?
Bro.
Francis Ngannou can be 40 this year. Gonna turn 40 in September.
Yeah, but it's like, did you see Jake Paul in that Anthony Joshua fight? He never even fought like he was trying to win it. He fought like he was just trying to survive it and couldn't do that. So I don't see him beating Francis Ngannou.
Maybe not. Maybe he's just killed too many guys that I wanted to see beat him so bad. That again, I'm wary. I'm wary to trust anyone in this sport. I feel like that this episode has revealed that I have trust issues around mixed martial arts.
I think we kind of knew that already. You'll know what's up if they sign this fight and then there's a stipulation in the contract that the ring is 250 feet across.
Last question this week comes to us from Regrown Eagle Beak. Did anybody write us with a real name this
I don't
week?
know. I don't know if you know this about eagles, Chad.
Maybe Carrie with 2 R's might be a real person. I don't know. Regrown Eagle Beak. Just going to drop this poster for Jon Jones and DC in some Russian reality show and then ride off on a moped shouting back over my It's a good one. Just going to drop this poster for Jon Jones and DC in some Russian reality show and then ride off on a moped shouting back over my shoulder, monetizing this amazing brand. Discourse.
That's in all caps, by the way.
Yeah.
You got a shout to be heard over the engine of the moped.
Is this the same Russian reality show where we tried to get with Nate Diaz and we immediately had a brawl, or is this just like a completely different one?
I mean, I would believe either one. The Russians seem to be churning out both reality shows and fight-based entertainment at an unbelievable rate. The thing is about this poster, I see Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, both of them standing there holding their UFC belts, which makes me wonder, do we have the rights to do that? Like, or we just
can't do that?
I don't know if you could do that. I think there might be a strongly worded letter headed to Russia. And then there's some guy who I assume is known to Russian people, but just looks like the kind of Russian Mr. Beast or something standing there in the middle. I don't know who that guy is supposed to be. I don't know what this show is supposed to be. I just felt I saw this news as a headline and I was just like, nope, I'm choosing not to learn anything else about this. You guys go do it. I hope you both have fun. I hope the check's clear. I hope you're monetizing your amazing brands. But I don't know, man. I can't be bothered.
I mean, the best part is you can lean back in your chair and close your eyes and imagine exactly how this is going to go and be probably spot on, or at least not too far from the truth, right? It's Jon Jones making fun of DC's weight.
Mm-hmm.
DC steadily like trying to laugh about it, but getting madder and madder throughout the course. They're staying in like a sparsely appointed Russian villa overlooking some body of water.
It looked like a porn set, basically, is what they're going to be. It might be in Thailand. They seem to like to do these Russian reality shows in Thailand for some reason. But you can see DC is going to start off like in just kind of like it's all in good fun, ball busting mode. But he's going to get genuinely angry. He's going to be talking to the other guys and on the show being like, hey John, hey y'all see this guy on the police body cam? Hey John, you know any guys you're going to get to come kill us? John, where you going, John?
The zero fucks will be given among the fighters.
John, when's the last time you seen your kids? John,
a lot of beards.
It's going to be shit like that gets just more and more serious.
A lot of beards. Just I feel like we know exactly what's going to happen. We're not reinventing the form here.
You don't think this Alf reality or whatever it is where we completely take the reality show genre into a bold and inventive new direction?
Flip it on its head.
People will look back at it as the I Love Lucy of reality shows. Broke new ground and showed us what was possible.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for sending in your questions. If you have a question, comment, or concern you would like to air to the podcast in future weeks, you know how to do it. Go to the website, co-mainevent.com. Click the link in the top right-hand corner of the screen that says email the podcast. That'll get you in touch with us. Feel free to join us on the Patreon. Man, we do have fun. Patreon.com/co-mainevent. We'd love to see you over there. If we don't, we'll talk to you next Tuesday. As for right now, we are done. We are through. We are out.
At what point, for the sake of the video, are you going to address your different background for people? Because people are going to be wondering what's up. They're going to be like, Chad appears to be in a bathroom.
I'm sitting in a nicely decorated living room here, just staying at an Airbnb, a rental house, while we get some work done on our actual home. So I can move around. I can give you some different backgrounds as we move forward.
There's not a lot going on back there. I'm going to be honest with you. Can you confirm or deny that this home renovation is also that you can put a bidet in every room of your house?
There is a bidet at this place.
Have you?
I haven't used it yet.
Have you gotten up in there?
Well, here's the thing about the bidet, man. Have you ever used one?
No.
I've never used one either. And like maybe our European friends can clue us in on this. I understand maybe they're more popular over there. Wouldn't you just have a wet butt after that?
No,
wouldn't that just result in wet butt? Then what do you do?
Well, from what I hear, you're going to be at this Airbnb for a while, so we're going to expect a report.
I am the only one home right now. Home by myself. If I'm going to do it, now's the time.
Yeah, you don't want to do it with an audience. That's for sure.